Week 2 of college football is in the book, so let's take a look at what eligible draft prospects have helped their stock and hurt their stock. Welcome to the Stock Report, and what's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Broshmo, just in case they did not know. So go ahead, become a bro and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content as always. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's have that nice, beautiful football discourse, and let's get this sucker started with our watch-along game, Texas, Alabama, because there's a lot of guys I kind of want to talk about from this game, starting with Jalen Milroe. And right now at this point, it's safe to say he's probably not coming out in this class. I feel like that's safe to assume. He is a first-year starter this year. He had one start last season when Bryce Young got hurt, and I think that was in the Arkansas game, but he got to start the Texas Tech or Texas A&M game. Didn't nearly look great. And against Texas here, like, we saw the big play potential from him. We really did, because the dude has an arm, and he is a wonderful, wonderful athlete. It's just, I don't feel like he's comfortable playing the quarterback position quite yet. Like, I feel he's still early in his development. He doesn't really go through progressions. He'll stare down his targets, which actually resulted in the 2 interceptions he had. He was just staring down the guy. And kind of to hell with the coverage, to hell who was in the general vicinity. I think the pocket poise, and you could probably pin this on the offensive line as I know Alabama, they pump out like 4 or 5 stars on the offensive line, but there's a lot of inexperience on that offensive line, and it showed. They got wrecked in this game. Actually, I'm willing to say I think was it JC Latham had actually kind of a solid game. He only allowed 2 pressures, did have the was it the false start, but like that is fabulous considering what he had to deal with. You had the 5-star true freshman left tackle allowed 2 sacks and 5 pressures. You had who was the center's name? Seth McLaughlin? Or is it it's something, y'all know who it is, but he had 2 essential false starts in the game where like he snapped the ball either prematurely or late, and typically, when the center's still holding the football on a snap, and usually it's on the center. It's like false start everyone but the center. That's usually on the center. So the offensive line didn't play well for Jalen Milroe, and it kind of caused him to leave clean pockets the few times he had them. And you really don't want to see that happen, because you start to develop this like Carson Wentz syndrome, right? Where you're running from ghosts, and they're despite the lack there of pressure. So I don't think we'll see him come out this year. Again, still very early to say, but with how deep this quarterback class is looking, and just with how much development he truly really needs right now at this point, I don't see him making that leap. I mean, we know that he has the big time potential. He had like 4 big time throws in this game, but 68% adjusted completion percentage, not good. So Jalen Milroe, I guess you could call him a fall in here, but I'm calling him going back to school. Let's talk about the other quarterback real quick, Quinn Ewers, who looked fabulous game. 3 big time throws. He was just solid from the pocket. 75% adjusted completion percentage. And I just thought he did well. Granted, I thought the offensive line for Texas gave him solid time. They did a good job of neutralizing like Dallas Turner. He was almost a non-factor in this game. So like Quinn Ewers, his star is rising. A lot of people right now are talking about like JJ McCarthy, but I think Quinn Ewers is the guy that we need to talk about. And sticking with this game, I'm going to move to the wide receiver position. A.D. Mitchell had himself a fabulous game where he had 3 receptions, 2 of them for tutties, along with 78 receiving yards. Didn't have any forced missed tackles, I believe. Yeah, no forced missed tackles, but he didn't really need them, because I mean, this dude was catching the ball in the end zone. You saw that contested catch potential for him. You saw his ability to separate, like you saw his ability as a vertical target, and Some people had him as a first round prospect. For me, I was kind of like wait and see because we've seen a limited sample size from him. He was hurt most of last season for Georgia, but we got to see him during the playoffs and he looked fantastic. And it's starting to show here. So I think there's going to be a point where like he probably jumps his teammate Xavier Worthy in this conversation as Worthy. You saw the big play potential from him, but like the hands, just like the drops are there. It's something you're probably going to have to live with when it comes to Xavier Worthy, but you know the potential that he has. Jatavion Sanders had a phenomenal game from the tight end position, 5 receptions for 113 yards. But A.D. Mitchell was definitely the receiver, the pass catching option that came out looking exceptionally good, coming in at 6'4", 196. Just a good performance from him. You also saw just the athleticism. He's a nifty route runner. He truly is. Jermaine Burton on the opposite end for Alabama. This cat should have had 3 touchdowns. 2 of them were called back because of penalties. He is emerging. I thought he was going to be that guy last year, and they really just made him a screen and fly guy. This season, they're using him all over the field, and I love it. I think he's starting to break out, and he could see a big rise himself because he has game-breaking speed. Let's go ahead and move to the defensive portion in this game with Barian Sorrell out of Texas, coming in at 6'4", 261, a guy that just missed my top 10 in my edge rushers video preseason, but the dude was nice. Nice. 6 pressures. On top of that, he had 3 tackles and set himself a game. The pass rush win rate looked really good. He had a good win against JC Latham. And yeah, the dude's starting to emerge. I mean, we could go over a little background because I didn't really go into him in my prospect video, but he's a former 3-star recruit from Holy Cross High School in Nolens, Louisiana. And he's smart as hell, 4.6 GPA. So I'd love to see it. Mainly was a reserve his freshman season in 2021, but he had 10 starts last year. That's where a lot of people like Ian Cummins was kind of big on him coming into the year. But the dude is a twitched up athlete. He plays with good leverage. Some of my gripes with him didn't really stem from how he used his hands or what he brings to the table as an athlete or the build. It was really just his creativity as a pass rusher. I didn't really see it. I didn't see too many moves, and not necessarily you need a lot of moves, but if you don't have many counters from that moves, you can't branch out from those moves you are really good at, then you ain't really doing nothing. So I don't know, at least based on what we've seen between this and the Rice game, I don't know if that's something he's really expanded at, but this was a very, very good showing from him, and I can't wait to see more. I really, really can't. All in all in this game, like Texas just impressed. I mean, we could talk about Byron Murphy, the second, the interior player for Texas. He had 4 pressures. He's been a very solid run defender. We could talk about Tavondre Sweat, who's got that big nose tackle size. He had a sack in this game, and he's starting to emerge, but he's also a guy I'm kind of curious. Can he stay on the field? But he looked good in this game, and he's kind of a late bloomer, so to speak. I kind of thought last year would have been his year, and it just didn't appear so. He didn't really emerge, and I do want to see how many snaps does he end the season with, because it looked like he was definitely someone that was more of a rotation guy than this like surefire starter on Alabama's end. The corner opposite of Kool-Aid, you had was it Terrion Arnold? Man, he got beat up from a couple of penalties. It just felt like he was consistently giving yards. Didn't allow a reception in this game, but but the penalties, man, just created multiple opportunities for the Longhorns. And then Kool-Aid McKinstry? I thought he was fine enough. Didn't really stand out too much in this game. He did allow a touchdown, but they didn't really opt to go his way a ton. They really targeted the middle of to the extent the middle of the field, but also tried targeting like the linebackers, the slot corner there, and Malachi Moore, which Malachi Moore honestly held up pretty nicely considering he was the most like hotly targeted defender for Alabama. But yeah, the pass rush non-existent for Alabama. Like Dallas Turner, I think he only ended up with a single pressure in this game. But let's move off from this game and talk about Mississippi State running back Jaquavius Marks. Had himself a day against Arizona. Don't sleep on Arizona. They're an ascendant school. And by ascendant, I mean they might win 7 games this year. But he had 123 yards, 10 forced missed tackles on 24 receptions, carries. Also brought in 32 receiving yards on 4 receptions. He had 4 receptions, I believe, the prior game as well against Southeast Louisiana. But he started the year out for me, and now he's playing in a new system. Like this cat was in the air raid system under Mike Leach, RIP baby. But he was a very, very dangerous receiving threat. Like he showcased that. He has over 1,100 receiving yards in his career, which that almost matches how much rushing yards he has. But this year, I feel like now in a more translatable system, he's really, really starting to show out. Like coming to the year, I had him as a priority free agent, but I think he's in that draft. I think he's going to be a day 3 guy when it's all said and done. Coming in here at 5'10", 210, former 4-star recruit, had over 7,200 all-purpose yards for his 4 years in high school. But really, really starting to emerge. Like really solid athlete with good contact balance. Keeps a good low pad level and possesses quick feet. Like he can make sharp cuts and stunning cuts. He's very dangerous out in space. And again, kind of brings that receiving upside. And really under new defensive or offensive coordinator Kevin Barbe, he has, I think, really emerged, and he's going to be talked about a lot more going into this draft. And I'm very, very excited about that. I would like to see the yards after contact percentage go up a little bit. This year is the first year he actually had anything higher than 2.6 yards after contact. Typically, you want to be close to that 4 number. He's currently sitting at 3.4, which it's fine. That's average, but maybe you want to see that be a little bit higher. But he has really, really emerged, and I was very impressed with him. Listen, I know you love the NFL draft as much as I do, and you're going to want a nice hefty watch list of players during this college football season. Well, go ahead, check out my draft guide. You can purchase it for only $30 by Venmoing or PayPaling me. Links in the description. It's a one-time payment and you get it for this whole draft cycle and forever and always. Technically, it's a Google spreadsheet. So send me your email when you send the payment. I'll get you hooked up. You will see my current prospect rankings and big board, my full evals. And guess what? It updates throughout the whole draft cycle. So it's a great purchase and it's a great way to support the channel. Next, I got Xavier Weaver out of Colorado. Had himself a big day, 10 receptions for 170 yards and a tutty against Nebraska, and coming in 6'1", 180. I talked about Shadur last week, right? So it's like, I don't feel like I really need to hit on Shadur, but Shadur is someone I've been very impressed with, but I don't think I'm going to really make a final eval. Not final, but write up an eval on him until, like a full eval, until that Oregon and USC game where he goes against really good competition. But again, came out looking good against TCU. But Weaver has been solid. If you're not familiar with him, he actually didn't start his career initially at Colorado, much like most of Colorado's roster. But he was originally a Bull there for South Florida, former 3-star recruit coming out of high school in 2019. And he was actually the first player from his school, like regardless of sport, to sign with a FBS school. So that's huge. That's huge for him. But he basically served as a reserve his first 2 seasons, had 10 starts in 2021. Then he had 9 starts in 2022, missed 3 because of injury, decided to transfer him and Jimmy Horn Jr., and they decided to go to Colorado. And ends up being, I think, a huge decision for him because he's really showing out. And to be fair, like, this is a cat with back-to-back 700-yard receiving years at South Florida. And if you go back, because I was like curious, I wanted to go back and look at some of his other tape. Then I was watching South Florida versus Florida, and he really had himself a field day. You could just see how natural of a route runner this guy is. Like, he is a very smooth athlete. He accelerates really well out of his breaks, and he understands how to utilize inside and outside leverage as a route runner. He's got this huge wingspan, though I did notice, and the numbers kind of say this as well, that his hands can be a bit inconsistent, but this is a guy that has made some highlight catches. So he's capable. He's surely capable. I don't know if he has like burner speed, but I definitely think he has, like, he can be a complimentary wide receiver too in the NFL, and could be a guy that could potentially sniff day 2. Right now, he's kind of in this early day 3 mode for me. I want to watch some more of him before I kind of write up an eval on him, but some of the notes I took on him were very promising. Is a little thin at 180, but the NFL, you can kind of, that's fine. You could get by at 180, just something you kind of want to note there. All right, next up we have Patrick Paul, tackle from Houston. Alex from Hail Mary Sports, absolutely not a big fan of him, and to be fair, I wasn't either going into the season. I think I had a 5th round grade on him, but I could see why people were really high on him just because of the size and the length, the physical tools that he brings. But he has been very impressive. He's starting to come together as a run blocker there for Houston. Had a big outing against Rice. I know it's Rice, guys. I get it. But you go back and look at him as a pass protector, and you go back and look at Texas Tech last season where he faced Tyree Wilson. And yeah, Wilson probably got the better of the exchange most of the time, but in all honesty, like, Patrick, you could see those traits. You really can. He does a good job of kind of resetting that anchor. I think he's put together enough as a pass protector to maybe be a guy you could potentially start right away in the NFL. It's just run blocking. Run blocking, he really struggles, just technically, kind of like figuring, like, being disciplined, knowing where his assignment is, who his guy is. He struggles with the tall tackle problem and leverage, and it's kind of wild because you see it more as a run blocker than you do as a pass protector. And he's still coming together in terms of how he uses his hands, but he plays with a nasty mentality. He really wants to lay guys out, and in the run game, you kind of see he sometimes kind of overextends, becomes a bit of a lunger, but that's something we can say about a lot of these prospects. Again, I write it down as something I noticed, but it's something we typically see from a lot of college prospects, so it's not necessarily the end-all be-all, but I could see why a lot of people are high on the 6'7", 315 Patrick Paul. And yes, if you didn't know, now you know. He is the brother of Chris Paul, who was drafted by the Washington Commanders in 2022. All right, next on the list, I got Jon Newton. I had to get a stud in here, right? He just had a wonderful performance against Kansas. Kind of their first real competition they've faced this year, where he had 5 pressures, 2 sacks. Also added 6 defensive stops there. And man, I'm just so impressed with how good of a run defender he is, where he just kind of understands his assignment. He won't vacate gaps. Just well built, and like coming in at 6'2", 295, and I could see, you know what, like I feel like Leonard Taylor from Miami is kind of being used out of position. He's being used a lot as a nose tackle, which like I guess it's fine, it's whatever. But it's Newton again, just from a production standpoint, it's probably gonna usurp him in terms of who's my top interior player. And man, the cat's just been good, man. He has been good. He's got the predator locks, and he is so explosive. So explosive. He is a penetrator through and through. Ideally, this 3-tech penetrator for a defensive line. He works with good natural low leverage. May lack that ideal length, but kind of makes up with it just with that quick first step, and he knows how to like kind of pinball off of contact and not allowing blockers to get their to latch on and get a grip on him. Just looks like a very good player and a very potential versatile piece. Like I think you probably use this guy at like a 5-tech or like a 3-4 end and feel good about him. Really can. But yeah, huge. Would love to see the missed tackles were kind of high this past game against Kansas, though. To be fair, like Devin Neal and Jalen Daniels from Kansas, very tricky guys to put your hands on. But yeah, just something in that game where I was like, that's up, because last season he had only 5 missed tackles, and this season through 2 games he's already matched that with 5 missed tackles. But yeah, very good game from Jon Newton. Jalen Daniels looked really good as well. But I feel like he probably returns. Another guy that I'm willing to bet returns just because of how crowded the quarterback class is. Let's go ahead and move on to Austin Booker. Same game, playing for Kansas on the opposite end. Hasn't really, like, he's very much so been a rotation player for this Kansas team. I don't think they trust him enough as a run defender yet, so they haven't really had him play against the run. Like, he only has 14 run defense snaps, and on those 14 he already has 3 missed tackles, so not a great number. But when we're talking about him as a pass rusher, holy guacamole, watch out. Coming in at 6'6", 245. He was originally at Minnesota, where he freshman his first season and only played in 3 games his I guess redshirt freshman season, so he decided to transfer. And he's someone that they're gonna have to play more and more, because he has already 4 pressures and 2 sacks on the season, and that's only on 30 pass rushing snaps. He gets after it. The only reason he kind of got on my radar is because Trevor Sigma shouted him out just last week. So I was like, okay, this Illinois-Kansas game, let's actually sit down and let's see how he does. And it kind of helps that he's not on the field a ton. But when he is, man, you see a big-time motor, never giving up on reps, a guy that understands how to play as an edge rusher, how to play half a man, and really does a good job just with a really quick first step, using good length to kind of create good separation and creating good leverage, plays low, and just a savage. There were a couple of times where he was really late off the snap, though, and I think at the end of the day, probably not coming out. Just needs more playing time. Isn't getting more utilized as a rotation player at this point, but someone definitely to keep your eyes on. I was very, very impressed coming away, because let's not act like Illinois has a bad offensive line. Like, Julian Pearl's very, very solid. Really is. All right, next on the list is B.J. Green the second out of Arizona State. I don't think I shouted him out before the year. He was a guy that I did already have an eval on, and I kind of saw him as this like mid-day 3 pick. I really like his size. It's very versatile, and they use him in a versatile way. Coming in at 6'1", 275. And like I said, he's used in a very versatile manner, as he'll work the B gap, he'll work outside. They just use him all over the stinking place. He's very stout, but he plays with good quicks. He's able to pinball off of contact. He knows how to get the quarterback outside of structure. If you go back to last season, where he had 37 pressures, 4 sacks, he had a 26.1 pass rush win rate. That's really good. This season, through 2 games, granted, first one Southern Utah, but Oklahoma State, more respectable. He already has 10 pressures, and he had 2 sacks in this past game. So this is a dude that has been on fire. I think he is played much better as a run defender, as I like them using him more in a having him bounce around a little bit more. Though, to be fair, last year they used him pretty versatilely. That's not even a word. They used him all around the alignment. Let's go with that. But I mean, this season, he just looks like more of a complete player, and I think adding that heft, because I think last season he played at 252, so he's up 25 pounds, and playing with that a little bit more weight has really helped him out to be able to sustain blocks, plug gaps, and whatnot. I really like that. He's been much better at, if he could get his hands on a guy, bringing him down. I think last year he was hovering around like a 30% missed tackle rate, which if you're playing along the defensive line, your tackle rate probably be a little high, just because it's hard to get on those guys that are just flying by you. But only 1 missed tackle thus far this season, so really solid, and definitely a name to watch out for. I think this is only his 3rd season with Arizona State. So someone who may come back, but someone that you should definitely have your eye on as of right now, as Arizona State's got a few interesting prospects. There were a couple of receivers in this game that I was like, oh, okay. They actually made my summer watch list. I just didn't get around to them. Okay, and then finally on this list, the guy's so nice, I've had to talk about him twice. Jaden Hicks is flying up my board. Like, Tyler Nubbin was a guy from Minnesota safety who I was like, yeah, he's top 70. He was a top 75 last year. No reason he's top 75 this year. Now he's probably like, after just a big start to the season, probably more in that 50 range. Hicks, I looked, I was like, this guy kind of feels like maybe a box safety, split safety. He's fine. I think I had going into the season, a mid-day 3 grade on him. This dude's absolutely a day 2 prospect in a very good safety class. Like, oh my goodness, man. I've been just shocked with his play. Not to say he played poorly last season, but legitimately, like, I did not expect what I've been seeing from Hicks. I really haven't had. He was just everywhere on the field against Wisconsin. 9 tackles, 4 defensive stops, 2 pass breakups, a pressure, and even had a forced fumble. He's become a just all-out playmaker. Keep in mind, he is a redshirt sophomore this season. Last year, he was a starter as a redshirt freshman, played well, but this year he's taken that game to another level. Just very explosive athlete. Good, does a good job of closing the distance from sideline to sideline. Fearless downhill. Will throw his body around to go out and make a tackle. He's already up to like 15 tackles this season with 5 defensive stops, which, if you're unfamiliar with that term, defensive stop is basically how PFF defines it as essentially a tackle that results in no gain or negative yards. So someone who plays well around the line of scrimmage. I think he looked more fluent in coverage. He's, again, showed the ball skills already. 4 pass breakups. He has the pick 6 last week against Colorado State, excuse me. But man, oh man, oh man, oh man, I have, he has blown the pants off me. He's a day 2 prospect to me right now, and he could even fly even higher. Freaking solid. Probably won't mention him for a couple of weeks now, but man, he keeps having these like standout performances. He's gonna be in my top 10 safeties. He really is. He's probably gonna be maybe a top 5 safety. I think he's impressed that much. Good on him. But who are some of the guys that you liked this past weekend in college football? Let me know in the comment section below. That's it for the video. Go ahead, do the YouTube thing. I know some of y'all saw Johnny Wilson on the thumbnail. Didn't really do much in the the cupcake game this past weekend. And I know some people were like, "Oh, is he falling because of the drops?" I don't think so. A guy built like he is it's just rare. You're not gonna see a guy move the way he does at that size. So like, I get it. Drops, they're kind of a problem for him. That was something I noted on going into the season, and I still had a day 2 grade on him, and I still do. So let's not overreact. Let's wait a little further in the season. I know he's getting outshined by Keon Coleman, but Keon Coleman's probably wide receiver 2 for everybody currently in this class. So let's not overreact. I know people now are going to be in the comment section saying, "Oh, he didn't even talk about Johnny Wilson." Well, that's because you didn't watch the end of the video. So but that's it for the video. Go ahead, do the YouTube thing as always. Until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.